Washington, D.C. is where Willow is heading next, and I cannot shake this strange heavy feeling that once she steps into that city, she might not be able to step out again. Not in the way she expects. Not smiling, not triumphant, not waving at cameras like she already owns the place. There is something about Washington that swallows people whole. Power does that. Ambition does that. Bullets do that too. Willow thinks she is traveling there for opportunity, for destiny, for a new chapter where she becomes a senator, where she replaces Drew and stands tall in a system that once felt distant to her. But what if Washington becomes the place where her story simply stops? What if she is shot? What if the headlines scream her name in a completely different way? And then we are left asking who pulled the trigger, and maybe more importantly, who paid for it. Sidwell is the first name that comes to mind when power is involved. It is obvious he wants Willow in his circle. He wants her not just as an ally, but as an asset. He needs her to become powerful inside the legal system, inside the political structure. Because if Willow becomes a senator, then Sidwell does not just gain influence in town, he expands his reach far beyond it. That is not a small thing. That is long-term strategy. And Sidwell is nothing if not strategic. Drew being allegedly locked inside himself, self-isolated, unable to recover, that creates a vacuum, and power hates a vacuum. Sidwell sees that empty chair, and he does not see loss. He sees opportunity. He sees Willow sitting there, smiling nervously at first, then gradually becoming comfortable, then fully dependent on him. Because, let us be honest, Willow may be ambitious, but she is not as politically sharp as she thinks. She would need guidance. She would need backing. She would need protection. And that is where Sidwell steps in. Not out of kindness, never out of kindness, but because controlling a senator is far more profitable than fighting one. Willow herself is excited. That is the ironic part. She is not being dragged into this. She wants it. She wants the title, the influence, the prestige. She probably imagines herself walking through those big marble halls in Washington, shaking hands, making speeches, proving everyone wrong, especially the people who doubted her, especially Michael, especially anyone who ever looked at her like she was naive. But ambition can make people blind, and blind people do not see snipers. Laura, meanwhile, is trying to push Alexis into the position instead. That feels almost like a desperate countermove. Laura knows Alexis. Alexis is sharp, independent, not easily manipulated, which is exactly why Sidwell would never allow that to happen. He cannot control Alexis, therefore Alexis is a threat. A senator he cannot influence is a senator who might one day investigate him. That is not acceptable in his world. And Laura is in a weak position. She is being blackmailed by Sidwell. That detail matters more than people realize, because when you are being blackmailed, your choices are illusions. You can talk about morals, about doing the right thing, but at the end of the day, fear tightens around your throat and you act accordingly. Laura may want Alexis in office, but wanting and achieving are different things. Sidwell has leverage, and leverage is power. Now Nina trying to help her daughter. That is complicated. Nina has history. Fans remember how Drew became a senator in the first place, how Nina used her connection with another senator in the past to make that happen. So if she did it once, why not again? If she could pull strings before, she can pull them now, and this time it is for her own daughter. There is something almost tragic about Nina's determination. She believes she is protecting Willow, elevating Willow, giving her security. But what if she is sending her straight into danger? Nina plays political games like they are chess, but politics at that level is not just chess, it is war. And sometimes pawns get removed from the board without warning. With Sidwell pushing from one side and Nina pushing from another, Willow might feel unstoppable, supported, destined. The path to the Senate seat seems smooth, too smooth, and that is always suspicious. In stories like this, when everything aligns perfectly, it usually means something terrible is waiting around the corner. So Willow arrives in Washington. I imagine her stepping off the plane, adjusting her coat, maybe nervous but trying not to show it, cameras flashing, or maybe no cameras at all, which is worse because anonymity makes it easier for someone to get close. And somewhere, not too far away, someone is watching her, not admiring her, measuring distance, timing. The idea that a hitman could be following her is not far-fetched. In a world where power shifts mean millions gained or lost, eliminating one person can change everything. The real question is who benefits most from Willow's death. Let us rule out the obvious first. Sidwell, would he hire someone to kill Willow? I do not think so. It would go against his own interests. He needs her alive to serve his plans. Killing her would destroy the very leverage he is trying to build. Unless, and this is a wild thought, unless she becomes uncontrollable, unless she refuses him at the last minute, but that feels like a stretch right now. Laura, no. She is many things, but not that cruel. Even under blackmail, hiring a hitman crosses a line that Laura does not seem willing to cross. She fights politically, not violently. Alexis. This one is trickier. Alexis is a lawyer, intelligent, and yes, she has reasons to resent Willow. There is history there is tension. But would Alexis go as far as hiring someone to shoot Willow in Washington? I doubt it. She has too much to lose. Her reputation, her career, everything she built, and deep down, I do not think she is that dark. Which brings us to Michael, and this is where it gets uncomfortable. If Willow dies, who gains the most personally? Michael. That is the harsh truth. With Willow gone, many complications in his life disappear. Custody battles, emotional entanglements, public drama. And while Michael may not seem like someone who would hire a hitman, anger can twist people. Betrayal can push them to edges they never thought they would approach. Willow has targeted Michael repeatedly, in the past and in the present. She has hurt him, undermined him, publicly and privately. That kind of repeated humiliation can build resentment like sediment at the bottom of a river, layer after layer, until one day it shifts violently. Do I think Michael is capable of arranging a murder? Honestly, I am not sure. Part of me wants to say no, that he is not ruthless enough, but another part of me thinks about how calm he can appear even when furious. And that calm can be more dangerous than shouting. Still, there could be someone else entirely, someone we are not even considering. Politics creates enemies quickly. Maybe Willow unknowingly stepped on someone's toes already. Maybe someone connected to Drew does not want her replacing him. Maybe there are secrets we have not uncovered yet. It is frustrating not knowing. The uncertainty hangs in the air like thick fog. You can see shapes moving, but you cannot identify them. And then there is the uncomfortable reaction of fans. If Willow is shot, if she dies in Washington, some fans might actually feel relieved, even satisfied. That sounds harsh, but it is true. Willow has done terrible things recently. She has hurt people, manipulated situations, crossed moral lines. There are viewers who feel she deserves consequences. Do I think she deserves death? That is complicated. On one hand, fiction thrives on dramatic justice. On the other, death feels final in a way that removes future accountability. Sometimes living with consequences is harsher than dying, but the possibility remains. Washington could be a one-way trip for Willow. She walks in dreaming of becoming a senator, backed by Sidwell's schemes and Nina's determination. She believes she is stepping into power. Instead, she might be stepping into a crosshair. And if that shot rings out, everything changes. Sidwell loses his pawn. Nina loses her daughter. Michael loses the woman who wants to find so much of his life, even in conflict. Laura's political maneuvering becomes irrelevant in the face of tragedy. Alexis becomes entangled whether she wants to or not. It would send shockwaves through everyone. I keep circling back to motive. Motive is everything. Who stands to gain the most tangible benefit? Emotion aside. Strategically. Michael stands out. Not because he is evil, but because the removal of Willow simplifies his world dramatically. That is cold to say, I know, but it is a reality worth examining. And sometimes the person who benefits most is the one investigators look at first. Yet something tells me the answer might be more layered. What if the hit is not about personal revenge at all? What if it is about preventing a shift in power? Maybe someone in Washington does not want an easily manipulated new senator connected to Sidwell. Maybe eliminating Willow is a warning to Sidwell himself. That would be an interesting twist. The bullet aimed at Willow, but the message meant for someone else. In the end, the tension lies in that plane landing, that car ride through unfamiliar streets, that moment when Willow steps out into the open air of Washington. It is supposed to be the start of something grand. Instead, it might be the end. And I cannot decide whether I want her to survive and face the mess she created, or fall and force everyone else to confront the consequences. That conflict says a lot about how deeply flawed she has become. Washington, D.C. waits. Not warmly, not kindly, just waiting.